Welcome back, citizens, to an all-new episode of the Batcave podcast. It's your old bat chum, John S. Drew here, and joining me as he has been from the beginning is the man himself from Gotham City 14 miles, Mr. Jim Beard. Hey, Jim.
Holy Hirohito, John. I'm glad to be here.
Holy Hirohito, indeed. I mean...
Yes. Yeah, he makes his presence known.
Yes.
Yes.
Through a submarine.
Yeah, when Hirohito sits around the chapter, he sits around the chapter.
This one and the next one, I actually really enjoyed, and I also found some interesting information. I don't know if we've touched on it, either in the main podcast or in the serial itself, and it brings us to our last look here at the actors in this serial. I know I said originally I was going to do the first four, being DACA, Batman, Robin, Bruce Dick, and Linda. But I've been having so much fun with Alfred. I said, let me take a look, and let's look back at Alfred's career here.
Oh, Alfred is the only reason I'm actually watching this, John.
Just a phenomenal actor there. I've been really enjoying it, and I found out some interesting things about the character of Alfred through. Now, mind you, it's IMDb and it's Wikipedia, both confirming this, but at the same time, as my friend Paul K. Bisson says, you always take either one of those with a grain of salt.
Sure.
But just to give you the background here, the actor's name is William Austin. And he's born 1884. He died in 1975 at the age of 91.
Wow.
But what's interesting is his acting career ends in just a few short years.
Some were like that. So you're saying it ended a few short years after this serial?
Yes.
Okay.
1948, 49, something like that was his last movie appearance.
Okay.
He's never credited as Alfred. He's never given credit in the movie, in the serial.
Oh, is that right? Okay, I guess there's not a whole lot in the way of credits in these things, of course.
Right.
Well, that's a shame. He plays a fairly big role in the proceedings, and we've said this before. He is helping to, emphasize that this really is Batman from the comics. And, the presence of Alfred in this is hammering that home. They could have easily have dropped that character with the way these serials are. And we talked a lot previously about Commissioner Gordon not being in this serial. And they could have done the same thing with Alfred. But that they have Alfred in here and they're actually using him in a way that perhaps Alfred should be used, or at least in the way the Batman concept was at the time, I think speaks volumes. And I think it's been, very fun having him in here. I also wanted to say that there's something else when I watched this episode that really gelled for me. Finally, here in this fifth chapter, and I'm gonna hang on to it, and I'm gonna bring it up later on. But while I'm thinking about it, I just wanted to toss that out.
It's funny you say about how Alfred, bringing him in from the comics. Now, according to IMDb and Wikipedia, Alfred was developed for the serial first, but the comics got the jump on it by having him appear first in the comics.
Okay.
And then when they saw how they cast Alfred,
right,
that's when he went to the Fat Farm.
Right, and we brought that up before. There was this strange symbiosis between the serials and the comics, and we talked about the Batcave, that the Batcave actually appears in this first, and then Kane and Finger and whoever else decided to have that in the comic book, which is really, to me, really fascinating. And then you got this thing going on with Alfred here that what we know as Alfred today pretty much comes out of this serial.
Right.
That's amazing.
Right. That means then actually, like you say, Batcave and then Alfred, if this is true, and again, it's IMDb and were both developed in the serial and then adapted into the comics and such. William Austin, by the way, just a couple of his other roles that would stand out to you and me. He would play, I don't have the characters he played, but he was in Alice in Wonderland in 1933. He was in The Mysterious Mr. Moto in 1938. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes in 1939. And he appeared as the same character in 2 of the Fu Manchu movies.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Mr. Moto is, we talked about this too, is the other Hungarian, not Bela Lugosi. Why am I drawing a blank here?
Karloff?
No, Hungarian actor. Peter Lorre.
Peter Lorre. Oh, that's right.
Peter Lorre. Which I have often said that what I think that J. Carrol Naish is doing as Daka is he's trying to do Peter Lorre in a way.
Right. Yeah. It's funny, too, because the picture they use, it's not of him as Alfred, but he's still got that wide-eyed look of kind of the deer in the headlights, the way Alfred does sometimes in this serial.
You know how so many actors in that era, they developed a shtick.
Right.
And then they stuck with it, or rather the studios stuck them with it. And then they just kept doing that same thing over and over again because that was their stock in trade.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So let's get into discussing the episode itself here.
Daka and his men plan the theft of a vital radium shipment. With success almost in their grasp, they meet opposition from Batman.
Well, where are they? I don't see him. He's dropped back. Maybe I got his tire.
When we last left Batman, he was on the roof of this armored car and was trying to stop Daka's men from making off with a radium shipment that was being brought to Gotham City. And he's on the car, and he's also got the gun that Daka wants the radium for. And he basically drains the power supply, blasting a hole in the roof of the truck, which I thought was interesting because he then proceeds, instead of jumping in there, because I guess he sees that he knocked out the 2 men in the truck, he proceeds to the front cab and gets into it with the driver there. When we left the cliffhanger, it was just going over the edge of the cliff, but as we see in typical cliffhanger fashion, Batman rolls away at the last moment before the armored car goes over the cliff.
Are you all right, Bruce?
Yeah, I think so.
Take it easy for a minute. I'll go over and see if there's anything I can do for those men in the armored car.
I better do it. Won't be a very pretty sight. Besides, I gotta get that radium gun. Change your clothes and turn the car around.
When he goes up to the front cab, you can completely see what Raiders of the Lost Ark was emulating now. I mean, that's all I could see in that sequence is Indiana Jones and the Nazi, truck that with the Ark in it, that and that whole thing of climbing around and coming in the door and fighting in the cab and all of that. So here it is. This is the original stuff that many years later is being emulated in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Right. Now, I thought it was interesting, though, because when Batman, catches up with Robin, the first thing Robin says is, "Are you okay, Bruce?"
I took note of that myself, yes. Yeah, Bruce should have slapped him right there.
Right there, exactly.
Yeah. What I made a little note of, and I got a kick out of, was he actually says to Robin, or he tells Robin that Robin is not going to go back to the truck because, quote, it won't be a pretty sight.
Yeah.
I took that to mean, like, not a pretty sight for a young boy. But, he's Robin. Bruce, you've had this kid dress up in a costume and follow you along on your adventures and fight crime and all the fights and stuff that he gets into, and you're worried about what he might see in the wreckage of this truck. Yeah, it was just an another odd little thing that come out of Bruce's mouth.
There's a lot of odd things, and I've got like and it speaks to the character, and it speaks also to the whole continuity in this storyline and how it affects the whole mythos of Batman. Another scene further down, but first we cut to Daka, and he's at the table with some of his men, and he gets a call from a nearby Japanese submarine, and I loved this whole thing.
Yeah, this ratchets up the whole DACA thing for me, because for the most part, everything with him has been so enclosed.
Yes.
He's, for the most part, seems to be operating on his own. And now this opens up his world, and it's adding some new wrinkles to it. Number one, an interesting thing here is we find out that his first name, which is Tito.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that because, it says for Tito Daka, and I think he responds, "This is Tito Daka." You would think I found that interesting with this character because he's so smug and superior. I've almost thought he might say, "This is Dr. Daka," But he actually responds to the use of his first name. The other thing I thought was really interesting is that the two crew members that we see of the submarine are played by actual Asians.
I thought they were.
Yes. Chances are not actual Japanese actors.
Yeah.
I think that would have been way too much, in 1943. So chances are they're Korean or Filipino even.
Right.
Or potentially Chinese. I didn't really get a good look at them. But, chances are I would say probably Korean or Filipino, something like that.
Right. And I just love the whole idea of the submarine, and it's so it's so simplistic. But even as it opens, we see the submarine commander, sending up the periscope, as he walks over to take the call from Daka.
Yeah, and that they bothered to make a new set.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I say that, and I'm sure that the studio probably had a submarine set, but it's interesting to see something different in this, and not just another, featureless room in a building somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now the next scene is the one that intrigues me because, and we've seen it before, but it got me really thinking this time, is Bruce's lab.
The afternoon mail just arrived, sir.
Alfred, what's that?
Oh, nothing of any interest, sir. Just an advertisement. I was going to throw it away.
Let's see it. I thought I told you never to throw anything away.
Oh, but if I saved all the trash that comes through the mail, sir, we'd clutter up an entire room with it.
Notice how the stamps are fixed on this envelope?
Oh, I should say that's rather odd.
It's a code message. Come over here and I'll show you.
Just a blank page. Oh, that's a good one on you, sir. Probably one of those April Fool Day jokes.
The first thing, as I see them working in there, is I'm like, first of all, it's a shame it's not part of the Bat's Cave.
Yep.
I had to ask, is it hidden away? Or is this something that anybody in the house could find, that Linda has walked into? Is Bruce that obvious as the playboy that he also, fancies science?
This makes me think of how many pulp characters in the 1930s were quote-unquote amateur criminologists.
Yep.
The Spider, Richard Wentworth. There was almost no effort to hide that they were also the Masked Avenger.
Enemy has knowledge of construction of new design aeroplane motor at Lockwood. May attempt sabotage. Take necessary action to forestall any such move.
Your first special assignment from Washington.
That's right. And there'll be 2 new men by the name of Bruce and Dick working at Lockwood tomorrow.
I think there's something even more interesting in this scene. He gets a letter.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, he chastises Alfred, which is a really fun little scene. I thought I told you never to throw any mail away. But when we get a look at the front of the letter, It's addressed to Bruce Wayne in Los Angeles, California.
Oh.
Did you notice that?
I missed that.
Yeah. Well, I know you did because just a little bit ago you said in Gotham City, blah, blah, blah. Well, chum, we find out this is not Gotham City. Not according to Bruce's mail. This is Los Angeles, California.
But didn't they establish it as Gotham in the first episode?
I don't remember. I hate to say it, but I don't remember. Well, if they did, then somebody's not paying attention somewhere.
Right.
The prop master is not paying attention when they wrote out. Whoever wrote that out probably just thought, well, we're in Los Angeles filming this, so I'm going to write Los Angeles.
Right.
It's either that or they didn't want to determine what state Gotham City was in. But yeah, it says Los Angeles. So sorry. Yeah, I was a little crushed by that. Like, oh, we're just in Los Angeles. That's nice.
Oh man. And then we get to this whole thing because the letter has no visible print. So, Bruce uses this concoction he puts together and he puts the letter in there and the letters appear. And the first thing out of Dick is, hey, it's your first government assignment.
Uh-huh.
So to me, this is suggesting they were just recruited.
Yes. Here's a divergence from the Batman mythos. As young as it is at this time,
right,
in history, this is a bitter pill to swallow. I see what's going on. I know what the world is like in 1943, but it's very strange. Now, I had read something that said that this was supposedly because the studio did not want Bruce Batman, to be running around as a vigilante, that you don't take the law into your own hands. So he becomes an official government agent. As they say, from Washington. This is your first, assignment from Washington. It's a departure. And for like a Batman fan like me, it's a rough departure. Because things are piled on top. You start thinking through all this. Somebody in Washington knows their identities.
Yeah.
It's written to Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And you want to know who in Washington, and you want to know how many people in Washington. I'm assuming this is the FBI that is sending him this. Okay, so the head of the FBI, I guess J. Edgar Hoover, knows Bruce Wayne is Batman and his ward, Dick Grayson, is Robin, knows where to find him. How they found out, who knows? But they know to contact him, and Bruce jumps. I mean, sure, everybody was patriotic at that time, but it's just, it makes me wonder if there could have been some other way around this without having it like this. I don't care for it. I'm that way right now to this day. I don't like it when too many characters in the comics know Bruce's identity as Batman.
You probably aren't too happy then with this whole stuff about Superman's identity being revealed.
Just in a nutshell, the secret identity trope is part and parcel of superheroes, and when we lose these things bit by bit by bit by bit, then the superhero genre as a thing is just no more, know. And they've been doing this for years, secret identities, costumes, even, parts of the capes. Oh, capes are stupid, trunks are stupid, code names, even, costumes in general. There was a whole period in the 90s where every superhero had to have a leather jacket on. Yeah. Because otherwise it was silly. And secret identities in the Marvel universe, there's almost no heroes that have secret identities anymore, with the exception being Spider-Man, which really is important to the character, I think. And DC's not really that far behind that at all. So All right, that was my soapbox, and I'm getting off of it now.
Well, getting back to the story, the government sends them on their first mission, which is to protect a new airplane motor that is being tested. And I thought this was interesting because then we cut to Daka and his men, and they've managed to get the package, because that's what the submarine was telling them, is they were dropping off a package.
Yeah.
And they managed to get it without any incident or need to have a scene with Batman, which I thought was interesting, because that would have added just another wrinkle. It would have been another fight scene and what have you. But no, we got it. No problem. And
Yep, no problem.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's not just a little package, right?
Right.
And herein it lies the truth behind the title of this chapter. So we get a very accurate title.
Yes, The Living Corpse.
The Living Corpse. This is fascinating stuff. I think this is a really fascinating, interesting idea. We find out that Daka is being sent a message, but not just, not just in a letter
Yeah.
from Tokyo to Los Angeles. Oh, no. We can't have anything simple like that. We're going to actually give the message to a Japanese soldier, give him some sort of drug or conditioning or something that he will be put into like suspended animation.
Oh, no. Hang on. No. He is placed in animated suspension.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, my God. When he said that, I was like, really? Animated suspension?
I know. Right. So we watched that today, it's like, well, sure. Yeah. But back then, a kid in the theater in 1943, that must have sounded really cool and weird, and what is that? And then the way he says it, is funny. But what an elaborate thing to do to deliver a message.
Welcome to the country that will soon be a colony of our expanding empire.
One side, Prince Daka. I have important message from Tokyo. Secure Lockwood plane with no secret motor. Fly to Pelican Island for rendezvous with submarine. Further information in here.
His mission is completed. He is very happy to die.
He didn't have a chance to tell you very much.
Everything else we must know we will find in here.
Something like V-mail again.
Exactly, Marshal. Klein, get the screen and projector ready. Remove the body of my brave countryman.
And then this is great. So he delivers the message, and then he dies.
Yeah. Because they're still working on it. It hasn't been perfected.
Well, I think he's supposed to. Because that's one less person then who knows the content of the message, right?
Right.
And just, and Daka is I love it because Daka is very respectful of this soldier.
Oh, sure.
He calls him what's that one phrase that they use? A son of heaven?
I think that was it.
Yeah, he says, to this fellow son of heaven, whatever. And I love this whole idea. It's too elaborate for to do this. Why the submarine captain couldn't just give him the message? But I guess it would have been then that submarine captain would have had to have died also. Right. That they have to do it in whatever happened to just a message in a bottle, or disappearing ink on a letter in the mail. But no, we're gonna stick a soldier in animated suspension and stick him in a coffin and put the coffin on a submarine and have the submarine go all the way to Los Angeles, somehow get it up onto the shore, and Daka's men go and get it and bring it to him, and the message is delivered, and then the guy dies. And then they got to get rid of the body.
Yeah. Well, you could throw it down to the alligators.
I have a feeling that's exactly what happened. If that's honorable, it depends on whether Daka feels that would be honorable for honorable son of heaven.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Just one more quick thing here. I was very intrigued by this episode's use of the term bonsai.
Yeah.
They use it as a hello and farewell.
Yeah.
And it struck me as very odd because that's not how I've understood it the way it's supposed to be used or has been used, because this is the only thing that I think I've ever seen or heard with using it like that. So it bugged me enough that I looked it up. And bonsai literally means 1,000 years. Even though it's Japanese, it says it's written in Chinese characters. But bon and zai, and that's literally 1,000 years. And they said that you say it and you're wishing 10,000 years to the other person. Okay, that, I get it. That kind of fits. But what it became was the equivalent of saying hooray. It's supposed to be a shout of exclamation and like saying hooray, right. Like we would say at a celebration or whatever. And that doesn't really seem to jibe with the way it's being used in this serial, and specifically in this chapter. It's like it's a hail and a farewell. It's almost being used the way you would say aloha, which is supposed to be both hello, bye. I have a feeling that the script writers really didn't look into it, really didn't care to look into it, because it's just a kid's serial. And we know that, we found out that this Japanese word, and just toss it in there. And it's not being used correctly the way I understand it to be.
Yeah, no, I thought it odd too, because they're exclaiming it everywhere.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. Stereotypically, we think of a kamikaze pilot,
right? Or
Japanese soldiers running up over the hill with their bayonets, yelling "Banzai!" I mean, that's, I think, the way it's supposed to be used. It's a shout of exclamation to put in, an excited point on something as you're running into something, or a big event is happening, or you're a kamikaze pilot and you're about to crash into something and you yell "Banzai." I don't think it's like saying it's supposed to be used to say hello and goodbye. And maybe it was at one time because of the literal meaning of it, but I don't know. Somebody out there in podcast land can correct me if we have any, listeners in Japan or who know Japanese, well, let us know if this serial is using that correctly, or it's just literally stupid American scriptwriters just taking something like, whatever, have them say that. That sounds, the kids aren't going to know. Who knows? We don't even know.
Well, I'm sure that's also part of it, the whole mystery of the Japanese culture and and as you say, stereotypes.
Yeah. I would love to have heard some actual Japanese, sentence. Yeah. Wouldn't that have been really fascinating if they had the guys in the submarine speaking Japanese to each other? And they don't. They speak English to each other. Yeah. Obviously for us. Right. But it would have been very interesting, to get some more Japanese thrown in here.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And the soldier's message is about the plane's motor, which, they want Daka to get. He also has with him schematics of the airfield so that they can get on there and, get to the plane.
Right. Thought it was really interesting when the mechanics, the plane mechanics, come up to the ride, this ride that we have seen, the ride that we've seen over and over and over again in this. They really got their use out of that set.
Yes.
Yeah. But my favorite part is they're riding along, the car stops, they try to get out and push it, which is funny enough. But then Daka appears. He actually comes out of his little cave hole, and I love it because the mechanics start to make fun of him.
They think it's all part of the act.
Step this way, gentlemen, please.
Pretty good, Saki. Your accent's a little off, but your makeup is perfect. Come on, let's see what he can show us.
That's okay with me.
This is quite a joint.
This is more like it.
Yeah.
Hey, wait. Oh, man. Hey, what is this? If this is part of the show, it isn't fun.
Bring them to the laboratory.
I wanted the camera to zoom into a close-up on Daka getting really pissed, at these guys for making fun of him, I thought it was going to be that guy that has to stand still like a statue, the one that we see all the time where his eyes go back and forth. I thought he was going to come up and, clobber them or something. That poor guy, how long every day does he have to stand there as a statue?
I know, and he always looks like because they train the camera on him for a brief moment as he's watching, and you think this is it. He's going to attack. So
yeah.
we need a payoff before this series is over.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I want to know that the long hours of him standing there still as a statue pay off because he gets some action at some point.
Right. And Daka captures those two mechanics and he turns them into his zombies.
Yep.
So that he can send them, back to the airfield and get his men on, inside as well.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Right. And it makes perfect sense. What I'm not sure about is, and again, this would have been nice to have seen because, we also see that Bruce and Dick are in the airfield. They're working as, I guess, mechanics or something. They're in, the coveralls and such. And I had to wonder, did the government contact get them in there? That would have been a nice little thing for them.
I agree, and I would assume that yes, the government got them in there, the FBI or whoever, rather than them sneaking in there and risking a lot when it would have been far easier to just have, Hoover, get them in there.
Right. Bruce heads to the plane. He gets on board. He contacts Dick via, and I swear, I don't know if it's just getting bigger or I'm just really noticing it for the first time because he tells Dick, if you need anything, use your pocket radio. And I'm like, those are some damn big pockets they must have because that's a big radio.
Well, those coveralls have big pockets, I guess.
Yes, Bruce?
I'm in the plane. I want to keep an eye on things while in flight.
Happy landings. Looking for someone?
Yeah, and Dick gets in a fight.
Well, how's the ship? She's pre-flighted, ready to go. Firing like a... Thanks, Mac. I'll give you regards to the Angels. You fellas know you're not supposed to be in here.
Dick and Bruce, because the plane,
Yep.
the zombies are in there. They get in there and they take off with the plane, and Batman gets into it with them.
Yeah, and we must note Bruce changes
in the plane.
In the back of the plane, he keeps his costume all, bunched up in something, and it's like, Bruce, just wear it under your clothes, for God's sake. Haven't you learned anything from Superman? Jeez.
Oh, man. And while all this is going down, the base realizes the plane's been stolen, so they order it to be shot down.
Yeah, this is cool. I mean, this is very interesting, and what a great setup, for a cliffhanger. So they start, they train the howitzers on it and start, blasting away, at this plane. This is a great little setup here, and I can see a kid back then going, oh, wow.
Yep.
They're firing on, shells. They're actually trying to blow that thing out of the sky.
It kind of reminded me of Flash Gordon.
Bruce.
Yes, Dick?
The two men on the plane are not the Lockwood pilots.
Report it to headquarters. I'm riding along till I get to their hideout.
When it crashes, it did. Because it really looks like a little miniature.
Yeah. Yeah.
Set your course west by southwest and head for Pelican Island.
And of course, it's like, how will Batman get out of this?
Yeah.
Batman! Look out behind you, the Batman!
So we've come to the cliffhanger, and
right.
here's the thing that gelled for me in this, And I started thinking about it during the fight scenes. I think the fight scenes have been my least favorite things in these 5 chapters.
Mm-hmm.
We've already talked about this before, but something really gelled with me, and that is...
Zone 14. Battery Commander. Captain Wales speaking. There's a stolen plane over your section. Bring it down at once.
This serial has done everything in its power to bring Bruce and Dick down to the level of a regular person as much as possible. And it's a real head scratcher, you know, and it's so prominent in the fights. They could barely win fights.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you wonder why Bruce wanted to become a costumed mystery man when he can't fight very well, and neither can Robin. They don't do very well at all. Now, we talked about this before.
Right.
The producers, directors, script writers, whatever, it may have been because they felt that was dramatic tension, that Batman couldn't win all the time.
Right.
But what really hit me and something reminded me of what was going on in the pulp magazines. You had all the great pulp heroes of the 1930s who were usually, not quite superhuman, but pretty close to being superhuman, specifically Doc Savage. When the characters in the pulp magazines reached the war years, something happened. They were more or less dumbed down. Doc Savage, who usually didn't, blink at anything during the 1930s, hit the war years. A fairly emotionless character, fairly infallible character. And he gets to the war years, and in the stories, suddenly he's doubting himself. He gets pushed around a little bit more. He actually becomes interested in women and goes out on dates and things like that. All these different things that you would never have found in the pre-war years. When I really got interested in pulps and pulp magazines, I wondered about this, and I found out supposedly it was because the horrors of war were so intense and sobering during World War II that it was decided that it was unrealistic to have these superhuman characters, and they brought them back down to a level of just about anybody to make them more realistic. And then that continued after the war was over. That was no longer, needed to have that. During the Depression, they wanted characters like that. I have a feeling that something similar like that is going on with this Batman serial, because beyond wearing that costume, there's nothing particularly special about Bruce and Dick, other than Bruce has money. He's not especially clever. He's not especially a good detective. He's especially not a good fighter.
Right.
I'm almost surprised they even, had him wearing the costume as close as they could get it to the comic books. In the comic books during this time, and I brought this up before. One thing that somebody once pointed out in a really great article that I read is that there's very little World War II stories in the Batman strip throughout the entire war years. Batman, there was very few stories that involved the war in the comics, and it was kept as a little bit more of a fantasy world that you entered when you went to Gotham City in the comic books. This serial is totally immersed in the war. And again, I think that same mindset is prevailing here as what was done to Doc Savage and the Shadow and some of the other larger than life pulp characters, as they were brought down to real life stature because of the very real and horrific war that was going on.
Right.
It really, really struck me this time, because it's frustrating to watch such a favorite character of mine, get just how many times they get punches in on him,
Right.
And you know what? Adam West took some punches, but nowhere near this, nowhere, near as this. I almost cringe when a fight scene comes up, because I just know they're just, Bruce is going to get thrown over the side of a building and whatever else. So, all right, I got that off my chest.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I'm just thinking, and I think I mentioned it before, the Captain America serial, where they didn't even bother with Steve Rogers. He doesn't have any superpowers. He's just a guy who dons Captain America's outfit. He's the district attorney, and his name is Grant something. He doesn't have the shield.
Yeah, crazy.
He rides a motorcycle. He shoots a gun.
It's surprising to me, almost surprising to me, that there was a Superman serial, Now, you know what? I haven't really seen that all the way through, so I don't know. Maybe somebody has kryptonite every single chapter, and he's constantly, I'm trying to think of, I think the only other serial that had a superhuman character, and it would have been the Adventures of Captain Marvel. Mm-hmm. I've seen big parts of that, and Captain Marvel does not get pushed around.
No, he doesn't.
No, he's pretty vicious, actually. So that's very interesting. All the other characters from comics or comic strips at this time are all just, for the most part, regular guys. There's the Blackhawk serial, the Spider. I think there's a Shadow serial, Zorro, Lone Ranger. All these different characters, and I'm hoping that they all get beat up as much as Batman does, and that nobody, none of these other guys, are good, capable fighters. But I'm hoping that there's still something that's going to elevate the character as portrayed in this serial as we go along through these chapters. Something that's going to make me say, "Oh, okay, he really is a superhero."
Well, I would assume, and it's how much we'll buy into it, is the very ending when the bad guy is defeated at the end.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it, and that's not to say again I don't like this serial. I think it's fascinating on many different levels, not necessarily where exactly I would want it to be, which is the character Batman. But there's enough other things going on to elevate this, and it plays its part in the development of Batman. I get that.
Right. Exactly. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Batcave Podcast. Before we go, though, Jim, people need to get a hold of you. How are they going to go about doing that?
Well, as always, you can see all my books on my Amazon author page. Just go to Amazon and put in my name, and my author page will come up. You can find me at the Gotham City 14 Miles Facebook page, and then my own fan page called The Beard, the Jim Beard fan page, on Facebook, and I am on Twitter sometimes, and my handle there is @WriterJimBeard, all one word.
All right. So next time we're going to be talking Chapter 6, and I've got a few questions about that one. As I mentioned earlier, we do these in blocks of 2, so we're going to be recording that very shortly here, but for you, it'll be a little while longer, ladies and gentlemen. So until next time, thank you so much for listening. Once again, Jim, everyone, take care.
This man has discovered a rich radium mine, which Daka is determined to steal. Will Daka's men overpower the rugged prospector, and will Robin be able to upset Daka's evil plans? Don't fail to see Poison Peril, Chapter 6 of Batman, at this theater next week.